So gooey dancing is us not moving sort of faster than music. We're going to allow ourselves to let the hand sort of drift and slow down and redirect, rather than sort of stop and push. It means that I'm modulating the movement you already have rather than leading you to positions. And it's like fundamentally a slightly different mindset. It's the idea that I'm not leading you towards me. I'm moving your hand in such a way that you want to accelerate towards your own hand. And I'm not bringing your hand back in your direction yet, and you will stay here sort of infinitely until I release that, at which point you go back to neutral by extending out again. That works in stretch as well. You know, I'm letting this hand sort of drift very slowly towards you.
Yeah.
Drift very slowly towards me.
So there's two parts to it. There's the part that gets me to move forwards, which is the hand moves in space, which distorts my shape a little bit, and I accelerate to get back to my neutral positioning relative to my hand, correct? So once I'm in movement, then the gooey part needs to be done after that.
Yeah.
And so what you then do is you begin, this hand is still moving in the direction that I was moving, so I don't feel it as a stop and redirect in any way. I just feel that this hand is slowing down in its travel down the room. My body gets closer and closer to it, but I still feel like this point here is relative to me moving in that direction infinitely slower until I feel like it's relative to me position reverses my movement. Is this what you're saying?
Sort of. Like, I'm inviting you to close the space between your body and your hand. And that's kind of separate from where our hands are relative to me.
Yes.
Right? So if I wanted to, it would be very silly and look very weird, but I could lead you to kind of a gooey stretch, but while I'm at a distance.
Yeah.
And it would feel very weird. The idea is that I can control where your hand goes in space, and I can encourage you to change the distance between your body and your hand. So I'm doing those two things at once. I'm trying to get you to move towards your own hand by moving your hand slower than your center. And I'm also letting this hand drift slightly towards me, and I'm using that to close off the space. And what you feel is the signal to exit this is when I reset the whole thing and I move your hands back again, and you restore to sort of normal. Same thing goes in this direction. You're stretching away from your hand because your hand's moving slower than your body, but I'm still letting this hand creep very slowly down the floor. And then if I hold it in place while still keeping this feeling, we'll actually end up doing a full stretch.
Yes, and my stretch is against my hand. The stretch is felt through my body because my hand is there. I'm not stretching against you. I'm distorting my own shape. I'm lengthening through my own shape to create an internal feeling of stretch.
Yeah, although in this case we actually have a bit of both. If I anchor the hand completely and I give resistance in this direction, you will do a full stretch. But if I just want you to stretch internally as opposed to an external stretch.
The gooey feeling?
Yeah,
right.
Which is probably the right operational definition of not for gooiness. It's the internal stretch and compression, but it doesn't change the total amount of tension in the handhold. So you end up stretching from your own hand, and that creates this sort of gooey feeling, but there's not really any connection weight.
Yeah.
And it's the same here as well. Like, I can create this feeling, but it isn't a stretch between us.
Yeah.
Yep. In terms of making that work in something like a Wurlitzer, the key here is the difference between linear stretch and rotational stretch. A linear stretch, I'm inviting you to expand sort of this way, and the danger is if I sort of roll in, this becomes like a single sort of scalar vector. What we want to do is have a shape that can stretch, like a bubble that can stretch this way, but it can also stretch this way, like outwards. The bubble can expand and collapse. In all cases, we're resisting the deforming of the frame. For something like a Wurlitzer, rather than trying to get you to stretch backwards and away from me, I'm getting you to stretch out and away from your hand. So it's a stretch.
So the bubble is stretching that way.
Yeah. So, but I'm thinking very deliberately. This is rotational. There's a little bit of space. It breathes between us, but it's a rotational stretch outwards. So we open the space and you stretch out outwards, and that sets up the turn. Whereas if you try to do linear stretch, doesn't.
My recoil from that doesn't have enough turn on it.
Yeah. But yeah, there's that. So that will also drown out the turn signal too. So linear stretch will tend to drown out the feeling of rotational stretch. It's quite hard to feel from here. In this case as well, I want to make sure that you're going back to neutral straight away. So this encourages you to widen your frame. As I move the hand back, you release and you go back into neutral and you bring that side of your body, which is where the turn is being generated. Whereas if you were to pull against this connection, you'd actually slow yourself down through the turn, which is what most people end up doing.
Yeah.
So you end up with this kind of stretched, slow step turn.
I'm not sure which one to demo.
Do the bad version.
To the back version.
Do the bad version.
Yeah.
Where yes, if
So
you're
the pulling through the connected hand.
yeah, if you try to draw energy through the connected hand as you turn, you're going to be off balance as you do it, and you're going to be slow. Whereas you have the opposite feeling. Like we create the wind, and then we let it go.
Yeah. So primarily your invitation for movement from me is actually to get me to do, as foot lands, my body creates wind, like distorts internally to like store energy. Then I push off that foot, so I sense that this hand moves forwards in space, which causes me to push off my driving foot, and then I bring my open side of my body to catch up to the connected point.
That is the effect, but in terms of leads, what I'm actually doing is getting you to do this, and then bring it in, and then bring it in.
With this though.
But that's kind of separate, that's happening as an effect. So the lead is open, the lead also has go back, and the lead also is turn. So I've got a lead that gets you to rotate on your axis.
Yes.
I've got a lead that causes you, I make this hand rotate slightly slower than you, so you end up widening your frame. And I invite you to step forwards, and all of those things together give you the wind through your body and the snatch into the turn.
Okay.
But in terms of, if I was going to teach this to a beginner, I would say open the space, prep the turn, and make sure it's like circular.
Yes. Critically with this is that every lead only makes sense in the context of the movement that's already present. So for you to get me to have this redirect, you make sure that you line that up before you need me to do the event that you're asking me to do.
Yeah, that's true all the time. It is trivially true though, if you stop to think about it, like it has to be true. The lead for the thing that you're about to do has to come before you do it.
Yes.
Because that's how time works. So like if I want you to turn inwards, you have to feel that lead as you're moving away. The lead is you feeling it here.
Yes, my next natural reaction will be that turn, even though I haven't quite fully settled in this movement. I'm still settling, but I can sense that my recovery is going to be a turn to my left.
All the information is here, which means that once it begins, I can release it because I'm not leading anymore. And this is where we get into the trap of if we distort the move, if we stop. Because if you were stopped, then I actually have to create the distance myself, or you have to pull against the hand, and I have to do something very different. Whereas most of the time, if I've already got some movement, it's very easy to convert that into the thing that I want. My lead is always happening before the last thing finishes. You feel the lead to come forwards now. You feel the lead to go that way now. Yeah, and you're always executing after you feel it. Which is how we body lead in this dance, without having to go in the same direction. I'm going this way, that's created my lead. I don't know, I feel like that is easy to forget, but it should be fairly evident. Your lead has to come before your response to it.
So as we describe this move for beginners, what are some ways that we can sort of help them keep the flow in the movement without getting little stop points that end up changing mood? So like tonight I had a new lead. I'm pointing out that he only has a short window of opportunity to get the next movement sort of queued up and in motion. So we did a Wurlitzer tonight. And from this position here, he created this fine, but he didn't invite the next movement early enough. So he created the wind, and then I settled. And then my only option then is to pull by this hand.
Yeah.
So for a new dancer, or anyone like learning the flow in the Wurlitzer, what you're trying to do is you're trying to tag in with my backwards motion here to turn that into the opening and through and around.
Yeah, I have to take the motion you already have, and before you change it, I have to tell you how I want it to change. While you're going backwards there, that's the only time I can alter this. As soon as you get back and stop, I've lost the window entirely. So if I was trying to teach a beginner this, I would First, I simplify the movement on the entry, which is why I think a pass is helpful, because you already get half of the work done, you're already moving this direction, you've already got part of the turn, very low effort to extend it. If I was going to do it from cold, I would still want to have some movement like this way. I would think I need to remember that the lead I'm about to give has to happen as you're moving into the space. Like so, as you're moving here, I'm thinking about the turn that goes out that way.
No, okay, so as we're sort of compressing, as we're having like the togetherness, you're thinking that the way to exit this is a rounding open?
Yeah, well, because I'm not thinking about you're going that way. I'm thinking about how do I convert movement this way into that way.
Yeah.
Like I have to dance through it. So I have to take the movement you're giving me this way and turn it into movement that way and around. Okay? But I think that's the danger of doing the cold version, is because you will again tend to do it stopped, or you'll have like a very simple setup, and the lead will get to here and then think about how do I lead the away. Like you're already too late.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a single beat to have gone, oh, I need to have thought about what's coming next. You can do it. You probably just want to slow this bit down a second and then follow through.
Yes. And how do you describe a Wurlitzer that have different like qualities? Like some Wurlitzers chase around themselves quite fast, like depending on how you describe my turn on the axis. So like if you were doing a Wurlitzer that's going to whip around and redirect very quickly, like as we do this pass, you're going to shoot past me quite a bit and cause me to turn without any more travel on this axis, so that my next step chases straight down the line. Whereas sometimes we have a Wurlitzer that wants to be very big and expansive, and so you will let this connection drift further down the room with me, allow me to walk out further. And then do you have a way to describe whether this is like a sharp feeling or like a, how much of that is rather your description versus us both tuning into the music and deciding what's contextually appropriate?
Good chunk of it is my description. If I want the turn to be big, I just have to distribute it over more of your movement. So
if you want the turn to be big,
I distribute it over more of your movement.
Okay.
So you have your travel and rotation and served as separate quantities, so your turn and travel are layered on top of each other. If I want it to be big, I have a big, slow travel. So it's going to be taking up a lot of space just on the floor like that. The other thing I'm going to do is start the turn much earlier and have it take up more of that travel. So the way I would do that is I come to meet you, and then I'd let this turn happen over the whole of that movement.
Yeah.
So as you said, that wind happens, as opposed to letting you get like all the way past me and pivoting.
So yeah, I noticed that that's very much about how quickly this hand sort of carves through space through here. That first line you took a slow half.
I started it early and I finished it late.
Yeah.
As opposed to this one, it will feel smaller because I started late. Yeah.
Started late, finish early. Yeah.
Yeah. Like just in time, this has a turn. You can have a turn lead that is distributed over the course of that whole movement. I mean, this is true inside the first move as well. I can make that turn cover a very short period of time. If I do it fast enough, it's just a pivot. If I start to turn back here, you get a big sweep into it. I wouldn't think about it too much for, I mean, it's maybe for performance Wurlitzer, but I think at its essence, Wurlitzer is a pass with a rotation that reverses itself. It is the opposite of this linear stretch. Yeah? The purpose of Wurlitzer is to teach how to get a rotational stretch. So it's rotational stretch, redirect like that.
Yeah. And when you say rotational stretch, we're, just for clarity, we're really describing the stretch in this plane.
Yeah.
Right? So like this feeling here, that's the rotational stretch. I'm looking for connection from you on this flat rotating plane. And where the stretch is that internal resistance to deforming our shape, right?
Yeah, it's less about the plane and more about the axis. But yeah, what you have is your body is rotating on your axis this way. Your hand is also rotating. If they move at exactly the same speed,
I don't stretch. I just reposition my angle.
Yeah. So there's no, which is exactly the same as if we stepped away together without any further hands, right?
I'm just repositioning my axis and but no stretch. Yep.
If I do the same thing, but I make your hand rotate slower than you, so your hand goes around your axis, but it initially goes with you and then goes slower than you.
Yeah.
That's where rotational stretch comes from. And in this particular case, if I do that and keep the hand away from you, so you have a very wide turning circle, like a large, long moment arm, you also will expand the frame, which will give you that conservation of inertia, which will let you get faster.
Okay. So you provide a long moment arm by keeping my hand away from my axis. Now you can then describe different paces of turn from this, depending on how quickly you close, how quickly you shorten that arm as well. Right?
There's that. So just rules of conservation of momentum mean that the further your weight is distributed from your body at the time you release it, the slower you'll go. So I can make you store a lot of energy, shrink your frame down, and then go to neutral. You'll turn quite quickly and easily. If I deliberately keep your hand away from your body, even if I make it rotate the same way, you'll end up doing a very big, slow turn.
Yeah.
The other thing though is how quickly I ask you to release it. So if you are winding and expanding, you're storing energy here. You have quite a lot of stored rotational momentum there. I can bleed that off, or I can get you to release it all in a burst, like in a flash. So you can burn this energy off and we'll get a fairly casual turn. In fact, that's how we would do Wurlitzer most of the time in class.
I might need to do this from movement, so yeah.
So normal Wurlitzer, the release of your turn energy happens over the course of the move. It's quite a slow burn. Whereas I can do the same thing, take the same amount of energy, but make you release it faster. You release it in a flash. And that is how quickly I invite you back to neutral.
So what are you actually doing to invite me back to neutral?
I'm completely relaxing, and I'm also assisting your frame in recovering to its original length.
So you're helping my frame sort of be put back to...
Yeah, so the way I think of it is your frame has a default length. This is nicely down pre-stretch. I can make you stretch it, and you will try to restore it.
Yeah, and I have a certain sort of a natural pace of restoring that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I can resist the restoration of that.
That slows me down, yeah.
Or I can accelerate it to put it back. And you wouldn't feel it because you wouldn't feel it as a pull. I can just, if you had a stretch, I can sort of assist you.
Okay.
Yeah.
My contributions for how this functions is that every movement that I make, I'm trying to get myself back to that default position.
Yeah.
Right?
So you're constantly fighting to restore yourself to your original frame.
Yeah.
You also have, all of this is optional. So if I try to invite you back to neutral, but you're like, no, I want to do a slow gooey turn, you just don't do it, and then you end up with a slow whatever.
Yeah.
99% of the time, you just match whatever you feel for me. So I can, if I shift to neutral really quickly, you'll do the same thing.
Yeah, I'll default to mirroring you.
Yeah, and if you do change it, you'll still pass through wherever I am first, which is probably the trickier part. I think this is different from a hijack. Let's say we're here and I'm giving you a small amount of tension, and you want to make it heavier. You'll match me first, and then you'll ask me for a little bit more, and then I'll match you.
Yeah.
And then I can respond however, and then because I'm matching, I'm waiting for you to end it, to start to restore it, and then I'll come back out. But that's very different from I was doing a thing, and then you just went straight to tension.
Yeah. So there's a moment of always creating common ground, and then I can change factors of like internal stretch or compression or wind within my frame, because then you sense that I've changed the configuration personally within my own body. Then that gives you a cue that something is different, and you can cooperate with that.
Yeah, and this will feel a little abstract, but it is, in terms of physical force, it's actually very similar to what I'm doing in terms of space. Like, all the way through dancing, I come to meet you, and then I take you with me. I do the same thing in terms of force. So I'll meet you wherever you're at, and then I'll change it or go with you or whatever. What I'm not doing at any point is jumping straight to the end. I'm I'm never trying to get to tension or get to compression or put you into a turn. I sense where you are, I adjust it, I take whatever movement you have, and I redirect it. But I'm also noticing how you respond as we do that.
Yeah. So gooiness happens internally. It's not a force between a partnership between you and another person. It is the resisting of changing what your default neutral position is, whether it's this way or whether it's this way. Gooiness forwards is that this hand, I'm invited to move closer to that hand, it slows down in space, but it's still drifting in that direction, and I'm just going infinitely slowly in that direction until I sense those hands have been moved opposite.
Yeah, the short version of it is that we conflate two different things. We talk about tension and compression as the force between us, but there's the internal version of it as well. The gooiness is you dial up your internal resistance. So your movement internally, the stretch here, like within your own body, gets tighter. The elastic band there is a little bit heavier. You take proportionally more force internally to stretch and deform. Your elastic band is also slower to restore itself.
Yeah, which means that from this position, I'd be slower to get my body to my hand position back to that normal start point.
But the stretch is between your hand and your body,
yes,
not between you and me.
No.
Which is different. We can do both at the same time, which is what we illustrated before. Like you can be gooey internally and we can have like a heavy stretchy connection. But that's still a separate mechanic.
We can have gooiness and still stay on balance. But if we're stretching against or pushing against each other, our balance is
Well, also, if we had our old push-pull force gauge, we could have gooiness and still have like minimal tension here. Like we could be gooey internally. We can be slow, but we don't have to actually turn up the amount of resistance here. And you can do that independently from me if you want. I can be very fluid, while you can be very gooey, and it still work. Like I don't feel like I need to adjust my position to compensate.
Yeah. And the Wurlitzer happens in the context of motion. It happens that you are creating change to whatever motion I already have. You have to get the change invited before I reach the point of execution.
Yeah, I have to lay a rotation, outwards rotation, as you're moving away from me. You have to already be moving away from me, and I have to invite this turn before I want you to do it.
And the turn happens because I'm restoring my open side to neutral, rather than pulling against you on my held side.
I feel no linear stretch from you. Nothing is pulling me towards the floor.
Yeah, but nothing's powered from this point either.
No. But even
because I'm shifting my axis by the floor, and because I have a stored stretch that's gathering, coming around the corner.
That's true, but it's also not so, like even if you did give me, even if I was powering it, I still wouldn't feel a stretch from you. Nothing is pulling me that way. So we have a very light, like you're creating all of the torsion in your body, so all the rotational energy is stored in you rather than in the point of connection. But that is separate from the fact that it is also 100% rotational versus linear. So the space between us drifts, but the stretch is rotational. Even if it was really heavy, if you were really slow, if you made a really heavy move, you wouldn't pull against me, you would just rotate really hard that